So I get to go on a home visit today with one of our physical therapists, Danie Benjamin, and we are going to visit a young man who has multiple complexities and challenges, and also I'm assuming the family has lots of assets as well. And so we're going to step in to somebody else's home, which is something that when I used to be in a more of a practitioner side as a school psychologist, I used to do some of that for evaluation purposes, especially in early learning, but I haven't done it for a long time. So I'm really excited to go see how a family is living and working with their child, with Danie, and kind of see what is going on in the lives of our early intervention staffs. What they do. So I'm pretty excited. Also, it's like a humbling experience to go into somebody else's home. And I feel really fortunate that I get to do this. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. Ready? Let's do it. What were you doing before ESD Land?
Before that, I worked at Dornbecker.
Oh, okay.
And I was doing a little bit of everything. So
on the evaluation side? Or?
So, I'm a physical therapist and worked for like the inpatient, outpatient, and also in the NICU. So it was kind of all over the place.
Oh, okay. What's the, is it still there that there's like an evaluation center for a complex?
Oh, so the CDRC.
CDRC,
yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes. So the CDRC still exists. I worked with folks in the CDRC. So I worked on the Dornbecker rehab side of things, and then CDRC is a different branch that's funded in a different way. But we all shared the same office, so I worked closely with that team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was school psyching in Portland Public, I would go up there, every couple of years for a complex evaluation. Mm-hmm. But I haven't been over there in many years now.
It's nice having worked that job and then coming into this job that I still know a lot of the doctors and a lot of the other PTs. And so it's been really nice to be able to collaborate with students, like
medical
private,
providers,
medical providers or private PTs and OTs. So.
What's the big difference between a day in the life from the hospital system?
Oh, it's really different. I never felt like I had enough time or enough resources to really do what I wanted to do with my patients. And then with this job, I feel like I have the flexibility and the resources to just do what I need to do for students. I have the time to follow up with medical providers or collaborate with other team members, where in the hospital it's just
schedule.
It's just you got to keep moving through things, and patients will discharge before you get a chance to finish getting them orthotics or equipment or things like that. So
So how do you follow back up with families then? Is it basically a passing of the torch to the outpatient team, and that's how that works?
Yeah.
And you were on the outpatient side as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so was that also as time restricted as it is on the inpatient side?
Yeah, and because they bill too, there's a lot of, there's just so much pressure to keep your productivity up and see, as many patients as you can, and you only get this slot to see them, and whereas I feel like with doing home visits, it's I have the ability to schedule so that I can have some time in between visits to be able, if a visit runs long, because the family has a lot of questions, it doesn't feel like I have to cut them off. I can spend the time it takes with each family, which is really nice.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And also it's really easy to reschedule with families if for some reason somebody's sick or they have a conflict. So.
It's not a month later.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, it just feels like so much of the pressure is taken off with my worth as an employee doesn't go back to how much I'm billing and how much money I'm making for our program. That's just a piece of what we need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of pressure behind it.
No, I don't.
Which is
we've
great.
never organization. Even when I was in like Portland Public Schools, when I was doing billing, it's a different. It's just a totally different culture.
Yep.
And so I know I met the mom in the library.
Yeah.
And did they have any other children besides?
First and only.
Okay.
We'll see what happens today. Every home visit is different, and so we'll see how it goes today.
Oh, so we're not recording while we're in there. Okay.
No, I'm not filming. We're not recording audio. All right, all set?
All set. All right, how'd it go? So we are leaving, home visit for a little guy, working on lots of stuff. I mean, there's a highly complex, medical challenges and etc. I don't know. I was really, well, first of all, thanks for having me in tow. And like I said before, I haven't been on a home visit in quite some time, so it's really good for me. And what I saw, first of all, the mom is super appreciative, and was grateful that we even have the service, because she was like, I don't have to leave and go somewhere else, and she has all these appointments, all week, and she talked about being able to generalize stuff in her home. Right, that you were teaching that if she was in a clinic atmosphere or some other atmosphere, sometimes they don't have the stuff that you have there, and just that you're working in their context, and that makes a big difference for her. And then, the little fella is working on some really critical, life moves, like moving and tracking objects, and to make some choices about activities, and communicate with his mom there. So, yeah, I thought it was awesome, and it was really. Just really impressed, right? You're just down doing your thing. And
that's a very kind of typical visit with this family, but obviously every family and every child is really different in what they're working on. But I definitely try to come in with a plan and some ideas on things that are going to work on the skills that child needs or address the family's goals. But then it's ultimately kind of up to the parents and the child, how the visit goes and what their priority that day is, or what questions they might have come up since I last saw them. So pretty typical visit with this one, and also just a good display that in early intervention we're working on all areas of development, and I tend to have kids that have higher kind of medical complexity, and so it often is kind of a slower paced visit, and also trying to incorporate a lot of different skills within activities.
Yeah.
So it's not ever that we're just working on communication or ever just working on gross motor skills. It's everything within a single activity or a couple activities.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in that, right? You had gross, you had fine motor stuff, you had all the communication stuff. I like how he got really drawn into some of the novel stuff that you brought in, compared to seemed to me, I was from behind, but it seemed to me like he was choosing these new things and kind of being get the other stuff away from me, that I've done all the time. Yeah. That light up toy that they had, I was like, that's the more engaging toy. Yeah. That thing's wow. And he was done with that. I want this new, that light thing. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And that's, I think, one thing that is very helpful with this family and a lot of families is that, they kind of get stuck into doing things in a certain way, and then as providers, we can come in with a different toy or a different way to use the toy and show them, a different skill that their child is able to do, or kind of highlight that communication piece where it was he's pushing that one away. He's not interested in it. And you can kind of, coach the family that he's telling us, right? He's making that choice. And I think it's helpful for families to have that extra set of eyes to say oh, I see your child doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that struck me, and the mom said that he had just gotten up from this long nap, right? But an hour of therapy is exhausting.
Yeah.
He was tired. By the end, just all that touching that face and just trying to be like, like stemming for sleep, that kind of stuff. And he was working hard to do the things that he was doing. And he did a few things that I think you hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Like, grabbing the tissues. I thought, some, small miracles, right?
Yeah. And it's nice to, some of the activities we've repeated in the past, like using the tissue box with the scarves, we've done that before where it's mostly me modeling it for him. So so it's always nice to revisit an activity and see, he's picked up this new skill.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah.
Good. Should I be driving? You can drive. I don't know if I should drive or shall we keep driving?
Let's do it. It's so brave to have, for families to have people in their homes, and there's just a trust there. That's something. Yeah.
I think that's one of the most valuable things about what we do is just building those relationships with families and building that trust. He's got a lot of other providers out there, but it's just a different relationship when you come into somebody's home and see their routines and see their home and the things that they do and that are important to them. So, yeah.
And, she was just juggling work with such a complex, medically demanding son, just to see people trying to juggle it, it's real life stuff, just trying to juggle everything. So what do you think is what do you think are the next set of skills that you're going to really start pushing on?
Yeah, I think for him, it's really about access and communication. With the type of muscular dystrophy he has, it's hard to anticipate what he will be able to achieve, but it is a progressive disease, so I'm not expecting him to
all of a sudden get up and start running.
Yeah, and so for me it's much more about how can I help him access the things that he needs to be able to access, positioning equipment that he's going to need down the line to help him to be able to access someday preschool and school, and then the communication piece, because obviously he's got a lot of things happening in his head that we would love to hear his thoughts and give him that autonomy to be able to make choices or just tell someone, when he's slamming his hands down and it's we think it means something, but we're not sure what it means. So to give him more of those skills to be able to communicate what he needs.
So today, one of the things that I noticed that you did, it's very obvious because you said you were doing it. You introduced a new switch, right?
Yeah.
You double switched. So there was moving from just having a single, off on, want to choice. And I was thinking what the progression, since that was very new, right? How would you continue to introduce that, and what do you think could happen there, in the next couple of weeks per se?
Yeah, so with that, the first is a no error. It doesn't matter which one you choose, you're going to get something that you like. And so they have something called a power link, which basically turns anything with a plug into a switch adapted object or activity. So they plugged in Christmas lights to the power link. And so what I was telling them to do is get a different color of lights on each, so he can really start to distinguish, this button does this and this button does this, kind of like what we did with the toys. And then the idea would be potentially to move towards a communication device where he can use one switch to filter through options. So if it was I want to do music, or I want to do knocking down towers, or I want to play with my tablet. So those could be the options. And then the second button would be for selecting. So the first one rotates through, and the second one says, yes, that's the one I want.
Right. Flip activity, and then that's what I want.
Yep, exactly. Or in the case of like powered mobility, potentially down the road, having a power wheelchair where he can use switches to make it go, make it stop, make it turn, whatever. So it's that idea of just kind of opening up the world to like, I can control things. So not simply just making choices, but like different switches do different things. Right.
So like, it just gets more complex as your life needs get more complex, just like language, and get them self-directed to the greatest degree possible. I thought that was like kind of a big move for you today. It seemed to me like introducing this choice.
So we've done a lot of things with just choices, kind of like I did at the end where I show him two different objects and then we use his gaze to decide which one he wants to select. Moving away from just using that gaze to now using the switch to tell us which one.
So on the way over, I was talking to you about your career a little bit and that you'd come from the medical side, and you were talking about some of the things that you really like about this job compared to that one. Tell me how it was different, right? Like from you being on her appointment list, what's really different for you?
I think the relationships that you get to have with families, that they're more long-term, and also you really get to know, like, what's the family working with at home that we can utilize, and also just really getting down to like what is important on the day-to-day for a family, as opposed to kind of in more of an outpatient setting. It's not a natural environment to go to a clinic, and so the things you're working with are different, and the goals that you come up with, they tend to be more like geared towards a certain skill or activity, as opposed to the goals that we try to write with families that are more about routines or participation, or just have like a larger kind of scope and span.
It seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong because I've never worked in the hospital side, right? But it seems like one of the things that you're really working on is it's like, more integrated family and life, like integrating these treatment routines into everyday life. And I don't know, on a clinic side, of course, I think people think they're doing that, but they're not in it, like you are.
Yeah.
Am I right? Like, is that a shift, like as a practitioner?
Yeah, I think like two things happened when I came to this job and left kind of the medical model, is that I had my own kids and I started this job. And so I think you start having come from the hospital, where you tell parents to like, oh, this is the exercises I want you to do at home, or this is how I want you to do it. And then having my own child and realizing, oh, like,
that's going to be really hard.
That's going to be really hard. I've asked them to do 5 things. That's going to be really hard. So that realization, and then also just being, more kind of integrated into people's lives and seeing what their home life looks like and all the things that they're doing. So I try not to give families a whole slew of things to do. Or if I do give them a whole slew of things to do, I say, just pick one routine or one time of the day that you're going to work on this one skill. And kind of giving them a menu of options of things that they can try and work on. But I don't generally try to like give a home exercise program or like a very prescriptive thing, because I want families to feel the flexibility to do it when it works for them. And I think families are also really good at being creative and coming up with their own ways to do things. And I'm learning from families all the time that I'm like, oh, we decided to do it this way and it worked a lot better. That's great. So I think there's more collaboration with families too.
Is it more regular too? I mean, I was just kind of listening to you talk about scheduling with this family, and it's pretty regular, right? It's like weekly that you're talking about. Is that a difference too from the clinical side? I
think on the clinical side, you can have regularity with like, oh, we have weekly visits, or every other week you come in. But again, I think the scheduling with us just offers way more flexibility, where if a child is sick or a family member is sick and they can't make their outpatient visit, it's going to be another 2 weeks before you see them again. You're not going to reschedule that visit. It's just going to get canceled. Versus with us, I feel like I can usually find another time to reschedule that visit before too long. So I do think it is more regular in that sense, that it's easier to make up those missed visits.
Right, which happens all the time in life.
Yeah.
Right? So that can be a big barrier to regular treatment for families. Like even, like you were like, well, I'm not going to be here on Monday. Can we have that off? What does Tuesday look like?
And the fact that I do my own scheduling as opposed to an outpatient clinic where they have schedulers who are working with the family and looking at your schedule. So I can look at my own schedule and say, oh, I can fit you in here, or this would be a good place, versus a scheduler who can't necessarily find those little gaps or know how much time I need between visits.
So we do so many different things at the ESD. We have literally over 100 very discrete programs, and I find that like people who are, for instance, I don't know, they're working in a school district in the finance department because they contract with us to do their payroll or something like that. They just don't know the breadth of what we do. And so, what do you think is important for people who are in our learning community but not in yours to understand about this service?
The biggest things is that we're working with kids from birth to 3 who have disabilities or developmental delays, and it's a parent coaching model. So we're really working closely with families to empower them and give them the tools they need to help their children grow and develop. And we are working with kids through all areas of development. And we can also pull in a lot of different specialists. So we work as a team with PTs, OTs, speech therapists, vision specialists, hearing specialists, teachers, and we're really all working together to help children attain their goals.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the house. I have with you. I have 2 calls from the governor's office, and it's not often that they call me, by the way, but I do get to talk about the priorities in our program and the things that really need more attention from a systems side. And to me, like EI and ECSC and early learning in general are just like, to me, they're no-does. Like, you've got to get more resources up front in kids' lives. Otherwise, you're going to pay for it on the back end. But like, that sounds really good. But then, there is a lot of a need in the community on all kinds of downstream effects.
I think one of the biggest needs we have is just spaces for early learning for our students.
You mean just like
preschool options?
Like inclusionary.
Inclusive preschool options. Because what we often find is that we've done all this great work in the birth to 3, doing home visits, having play groups, sometimes having some classes at our sites. But then when it comes to the kid turning 3 and wanting to provide ongoing services, we just don't have the places to help families access those in the community. So we're really limited with where we can support.
It's like you do all this work upstream, get kids ready for this next adventure that's really important for their development, and then those, like, the system just doesn't actually support the treatment goals almost, right? And
for a lot of our families, once they've gotten to 3, if they've been in our program for those 3 years, they're parent coached. They have done all the parent coaching for 3 years, and so it's time to get those kids into spaces with their peers, because that's where they're going to learn. And we just don't have enough places for our kids to go. There's just
honestly, like in the state of Oregon, of course, kids come into kindergarten, and these are the students who need the most support, right? They are resource intensive, and like they need to get integrated and all that stuff. And I often talk about how in Oregon, especially, there really is not an early learning system in the state. There are programs. Oftentimes they're disconnected because there is not a system that like every kid gets access to X, right? And then kids who need more get more. It's like maybe you get access to something or maybe you don't.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes like, well, we're just doing treatment over here, but it's not connected to a system. Just watching, you guys do what you do on top of something that doesn't exist is interesting stuff, Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are rewarding about it. I think making those connections with families and seeing the parents and the caregivers like grow in their capacity to help their children is a big one. So, for example, one of their big goals was like, we want to be comfortable moving him and lifting him. And he'd been in the NICU for a really long time, and they just like had never done a lot of holding of him. And so now it's like, oh, it's no big deal. And I think also seeing them feel like they can do new things with him. So like taking him to story time or bringing him to a play group, 6 months ago, they wouldn't have felt comfortable with that. And so just seeing their capacity grow, that's huge. Seeing kids do new skills that they've never done before is super rewarding. Working as a team and collaborating with other providers to help students is very rewarding. And I could go on and on. It's
awesome.
It's a rewarding job.
Oh, it's so great. And thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
It's such a, being an educator I think it's like the best thing to do with your life, and so I love spending time with people who are doing it, with families and kids. And so just thanks for having me tow along with you. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
All right, Danie. Cool. Bye.